Around 4.7 million years ago, Earth looked completely different. Thick forests stretched for miles and giant grasslands rolled beneath wide blue skies. Rivers ran wild and volcanoes sometimes shook the ground. Enormous creatures roamed freely, elephants with downward curving tusks, saber-toothed cats and herds of giant antelope. Among them lived small groups of early humans. They were not like us yet. Their bodies were covered with hair to keep them warm, their arms long and strong for climbing, and their faces rough from wind and dust. But something inside them had begun to change. They had curious eyes and restless minds that were starting to think beyond instinct. They walked upright, standing on 2 legs instead of 4. This simple act opened a new world. They could see farther across the plains, reach for fruits hanging on trees, and carry food or young ones in their arms. Walking upright was the first great step that separated them from every other creature around them. The land was full of beauty, but it was also full of danger. At night, when darkness swallowed the plains, the roars of predators echoed across the valleys. Hyenas, giant cats, and crocodiles hunted anything that moved. Early humans had no weapons, no houses, and no fire. When darkness fell, they huddled together for safety. Their only defense was each other. During daylight, they searched for food. They learned where to find sweet fruits, how to dig roots, and which plants were safe to eat. Sometimes they followed vultures, knowing that the birds would lead them to animal remains left by lions. They used stones to crack open bones and eat the rich marrow inside. Food was never guaranteed. There were days of plenty and days of hunger. But the more they explored, the more they learned. And learning became their greatest weapon. One afternoon, a young human struck 2 stones together and noticed that one broke into a sharp edge. That moment changed everything. Sharp stones became the first tools. They could cut through meat, scrape animal hides, and dig up tough roots. Soon others copied the idea, and tool-making spread from one group to another. Different rocks had different uses. Hard stones made sharp edges. Round stones were perfect for smashing shells or nuts. With each discovery, life became a little easier. These simple tools marked the dawn of the Stone Age. Humans had learned to shape the world around them, and the more they shaped it, the more they began to control it. Early humans did not build homes, but they were clever about finding shelter. When the sun was too hot, they rested under trees. During storms, they hid inside caves or under rocky ledges. In colder places, they wrapped themselves in leaves or animal skins for warmth. Caves soon became their safest homes. The walls blocked wind and rain, and the darkness offered protection from beasts. Over time, families chose caves near rivers or fruit trees where food and water were close. Inside these shelters, they started to live together as true families, parents, children, and sometimes grandparents. These small groups cared for one another, shared food, and kept watch while others slept. The bond between them grew strong, and that unity helped them survive when the world outside was full of danger. Every day was a hunt for survival. Men and older boys followed small animals, using stones and sticks as weapons. They watched the movements of herds, learning how to predict where animals would graze. Women gathered berries, fruits, and nuts while keeping the children close. They noticed how certain fruits ripened at the same time every year. They remembered where roots grew after the rain. Slowly, a pattern of knowledge was formed, one that would one day become the beginnings of farming. They also learned to share. If one group found food, they divided it among everyone. This was not kindness alone. It was survival. Those who shared today might be the ones saved by others tomorrow. One evening, a group of humans watched a herd of ancient elephants near the river. The ground shook with every step the giants took. Suddenly, a young elephant slipped in the mud and broke its leg. When the predators smelled its weakness, they came running. The humans waited until the big cats had finished their feast and left. Then they crept close, using their sharp stones to cut pieces of meat. They worked fast, knowing the smell of blood could attract more hunters. This risky bravery fed the group for days. From that moment, they learned that patience and teamwork could win food even from the strongest beasts. Long before humans could make fire, they feared it. Lightning strikes sometimes set trees ablaze and flames roared through dry grasslands. But fire also brought warmth and light. After a wildfire, humans found roasted animals left behind. The meat tasted softer and richer, and it was easier to chew. Some groups began to carry half-burnt sticks back to their caves, keeping the embers alive for a short while before they died out. They could not yet control fire, but they were beginning to understand it. Centuries later, their descendants would learn to spark flames on purpose. That single skill would change human life forever, bringing warmth, safety, and the ability to cook. Life was harsh, but humans were never truly alone. They depended on each other in every way. When one fell ill or was injured, others cared for them. When a child cried, the whole group comforted it. If danger appeared, they fought side by side, throwing stones and shouting loudly to scare predators away. They had no spoken language yet, but they used gestures, sounds, and facial expressions to share meaning. A hand wave could warn of danger. A soft sound could call someone near. Over time, these signals grew more complex, forming the first roots of human communication. This ability to share ideas and emotions was something no other animal had. It allowed them to plan, cooperate, and dream. As generations passed, humans became masters of observation. They studied the world around them and discovered its rhythms. They learned that after heavy rain, new plants sprouted. They noticed that herds moved north when the dry season came and returned south when the rains fell again. They followed these patterns, traveling great distances to find food. They remembered safe caves, fertile valleys, and rivers that never dried up. This memory, shared from one generation to the next, was humanity's first form of knowledge. It was not written or spoken, but carried in their minds and hearts, passed through stories acted out by the firelight of later times. Some nights, when the skies cleared and the stars filled the heavens, humans sat together in silence. They watched the lights above, not understanding what they were, but feeling awe and wonder. They saw shapes in the stars and faces in the moon. They began to believe that the world was full of life and meaning beyond what they could see. This imagination gave them hope during long, hungry nights. It also sparked creativity. They started arranging stones, decorating caves with colored earth, and carving small shapes from bone or wood. These were not just tools. They were the first signs of art, of thought, of soul. Over thousands of years, each new generation of humans learned faster than the one before. They shaped sharper tools. They discovered that working together could bring down larger animals. They learned to store food in shaded places. Women became keepers of knowledge about plants and healing herbs. Men perfected the art of hunting. Children learned by watching and helping. Every life added something new to the growing wisdom of humankind. The once fragile beings who hid from predators had become the cleverest survivors on Earth. As climates shifted and the Earth changed, groups of humans began to wander farther in search of safer lands. They crossed rivers, climbed mountains, and entered new territories. Some moved into colder regions where snow covered the ground. Others stayed near warm forests and lakes. Wherever they went, they adapted. Their bodies changed over time and their minds grew sharper. One day, far in the future, their descendants would learn to speak, to build homes, and to grow food. Villages, then towns, then civilizations would rise. But all of that began here, with small bands of brave humans who refused to give up. Life 4.7 million years ago was a battle every single day, yet those early humans endured. They survived droughts, storms, predators, and hunger, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most adaptable. They learned to think, to plan, to cooperate, and to dream. They taught their children everything they knew, ensuring that even if they perished, their knowledge lived on. We owe our existence to them, their courage, their curiosity, and their determination. Every comfort we have today began with their struggles and discoveries. When we light a fire, pick up a tool, or look at the stars, we are repeating the actions that began millions of years ago. The story of humanity is the story of survival, and it started with those first footsteps on the wild, ancient Earth. Life 4.7 million years ago was not just the past, it was the foundation of everything. The prehistoric humans who lived then faced a world that tested them every day. Yet they learned, adapted, and persevered. They created tools, discovered fire, cared for one another, and built the spirit of community. Through their struggles, they transformed fear into knowledge and hardship into progress. Their story is a reminder that the will to survive lives deep within us all. No matter how harsh,